We're going to ask each of them to introduce themselves and then just make a few opening remarks to give us their sense of where the industry is today. We know it's changing, but what does that mean in terms of data and metrics? What are the priorities of the industry? So, Mr. West, why don't you start us off?
My name's Jamie West. I'm Group Director of Advanced Advertising at Sky, and that sort of role is all about harmonising and consolidating our advertising product across the territories that we operate in. I sort of reflect on both the CEO conversations this morning and also the comments just now. And actually, I don't feel like there is a moment of doom. I actually think, you know, when I look to the future, there has never been a more exciting time in TV. It's just harnessing the power that we have. There are so many opportunities that are coming out and growing out of the multi-platform viewing. You know, whether it be granular census data, whether it be targeting capability, or whether it be the thing that matters most, which is customer choice, so giving the customer what it needs. So for me, it's actually about, you know, bringing the industry together to a consensus, building out a common language, but enabling advertisers and the agencies to understand this holistic view.
Is it fair to say, Jamie, you're in that good place because as Sky, you've had data for a long time, lots of it, and lots of people who are very good at using it. Is that fair?
Yeah, look, it's fair, but I think the offer still stands, certainly in the UK, from Sky to the industry, that to provide return path data. So we have panels, a captain scaled panel of 500,000 homes, and a census panel that today is daily panel that's about 3.2 million. By middle of next year, that'll be 6 point something million. And our offer to the industry, to Barb and the broadcasters is we will help fund, develop a consensus in the market. And I think, you know, because it's incumbent on us as a major player in the market. So yes, we're in a fortunate position, but it actually makes it quite an expensive position.
And that came across very strongly from Stephane this morning, I thought.
Yep, absolutely.
Fantastic. Simon, where are we today as an industry?
Would you like me to introduce myself?
I think you should do that first. You should do that first.
As
indeed.
per your standing orders.
Please do. No, absolutely.
Simon Thomas, Global Director of Audience Research and Investment Management at GroupM. I have a global role, so I'm not UK only. In fact, I get criticised sometimes because I don't necessarily know what's going on in the UK half the time because I'm not here. But that role goes across planning and trading and reporting. In my 40 years in the industry, I've been on the sales side, I've been on the research side, I've been on the computer systems side with DDS, or as they now are, Media Ocean, which is where I first came across Barb data back in the late 1980s. I also remember the Green Books as well. We did it by hand. And for my sins, I look after this whole area of cross-screen audience measurement, optimization and reporting. From our point of view, as indeed it is from the consumer's point of view, we don't think of TV against digital. We don't think of advanced services against ordinary advertising. And we look at the continuum through the funnel, all the way through from brand building down to the activation levels with the most appropriate media and combinations of media to do that. My overall view of where we are, I share a lot of what Jamie says. I mean, we often do agree. I think we've got a wonderful opportunity. I think there's too much negativity around the place at the moment. I think we need to get positive. We need to work together. And the reason I say that is I sit on 3 separate industry bodies. One is the EACA, and that's the hat I'm wearing today, and the hat in which I got involved with this particular project, the European Association of Communication Agencies, which is the international version of the IPA. Secondly, I sit on an IAB Europe committee to do with brand advertising. So that's on the digital side for the digital publishers, so I see both sides of it. And then thirdly, I'm involved with the main board for something called ICOM, which is an annual conference for primarily data audience measurement. So I have a pretty rounded view of what's going on in the marketplace now. And for me, I see opportunities, but I see an awful lot of commercial barriers that we need to overcome. And I think that's probably the main issue, is the commercial barriers. Our industry is going through disruption. We're going through an exponential growth of data. I was interviewed yesterday by Beat TV, and I said, yes, data is the new oil, but it's also with some loads of fool's gold in it, so we need to make sure we do the two.
sorry to interrupt, just quickly, in those, what commercial barriers are you talking about in the TV industry? Which are the ones the TV industry really needs to think about?
Research is very expensive. That's where it starts, and the vendor side of the business pays for the majority of it, and in some countries all of it. And the cost equation just does not work out. Again, talking with companies I have a global relationship responsibility for, Nielsen, Kantar, GfK, Ipsos, etc., Comscore. The issues there are also, they want us as an industry to ask them what to do. They cannot innovate at a time where we have an enormous pace of change and disruption. So those are, that for me is the major commercial barrier. The second one is actually the way in which we transact media, and the fact that we're still transacting television against GRPs and station average price for a restricted number of demographic audiences. We plan across a plethora, including TGI fusions and set-top box data from other partners. But the main issue, and that's not a criticism of the industry, I understand the commercial reason it's done, but that's something we've got to try and break through.
Okay, that's a good sense of where we are from the buy side. Katty, do you want to introduce yourself and give us your sense of where we are? And EGTA's been working on this area, haven't you? So.
Exactly. So my name is Katty Roberfroid, and I lead EGTA, which is formerly known as the European Group of Television Advertising, but these days we are the association of TV/video, radio/audio sales houses with about 148 members in 42 markets. So I think it's fair to say that because of the size of the organization, its diversity, we have both the big broadcasters, the small broadcasters, the regional ones, the pay TV, the free-to-air. I mean, we have a very good vision of where the industry lies. We've been embarking on a very similar and very complementary exercise. And on this panel, I'd like to be the forever optimistic, maybe slightly naive person. So yes, all the problems we all know. So to your question, to me, the biggest change today is definitely the impact of fragmentation and all of that it means. But the one thing that I want to keep today is the unprecedented desire for the industry to move forward as one, the desire to cooperate. I don't think that's been there before, but at the moment, sometimes my fear is that it remains at word level and not yet at action level. So definitely, I think there is a need, and there's never been a better moment to start acting. And whether it's integrating new partners and starting to measure non-broadcasters, but partners, which we are more than willing to do, but then it has to go beyond just let's do it, but just let's act and let's do the steps that will make it possible. So that to me is the biggest
dealing
change
with all
today.
the stuff,
Yeah.
basically. All right. Now, I'm going to get your name wrong. I know it's Mikael because I'm English, but it's probably not.
No, Michael's fine.
You're good with Mikael.
Mikael.
I'm so happy.
In Swedish.
I'm sorry. We're Brexited soon, don't worry.
No,
Mikael, tell us who you are and what you do. And
I'm
your sense.
Director of Sales and Business Development at TV4 in Sweden. So I've worked at TV4 for 3 years, been agency man for 16 years before that. So I'm well informed about the troubles with the agency side and the different challenges. And I enjoy the opening presentation because I missed the Swedish flag because we've launched the total TV measurement. So we are already measuring linear TV combined with TV across all platforms. We launched reach and frequency and audience and demographic measurements for advertising. So that's already in place in Sweden as a measurement. I mean, the difficulty moving forward is, I think it's currency related, because in the online world there are loads of so-called currencies and third-party vendors, measurements, and everything's quite fragmented in the measuring side, and we need a combined transactional currency that we can trade across all our platforms. So I think that's the difficulty moving forward. Basically.
When you say platforms there, you mean your traditional broadcast inventory, your multi-platform TV, and then video inventory on YouTube and elsewhere?
We would be happy to include YouTube as well. And in Sweden, I mean, the big newspaper video is included in the currency as well, and in the measurement. So it's not only TV in Sweden. We have other medias and other publishers as well. But I think we need to raise the bar for online to a TV standard in terms of what quality, what are the measurements, and we really need to raise the bar. And I think that's scary for everyone, especially as a broadcaster, because that will mean I have less inventory to sell online. Because if you include completion rate, viewability, and everything else, my inventory will reduce.
Right.
And I think that's the challenge.
As a share of the total, you mean? As a share of the total, you mean?
Yeah, no, instead of selling on impressions, video starts and that's when the advertiser or agency pays. Maybe I need to charge the advertiser when the ad has been viewed.
Got you.
100% viewability, 100% completion rate, and that will raise the bar, I think.
The GroupM standard.
We'll come back to that, I'm sure. And last but definitely not least, Stephane, tell us who you are, and then what's your sense of where the industry is in terms of measurement and data today?
My name is Stephane Coruble. I'm CEO of AdConnect, the international advertising sales house of RTL Group. So I have also a global role, or looking after many markets, 12 markets, and in the US as well now. So first of all, I really like your introduction, John. And I think you need to have a little step back. What do you mean by TV? And for us at AdConnect, TV doesn't mean television.
Can I just, Stephane, sorry, can I just check? Can everyone hear Stephane all right?
No,
I think
your
so.
mic is...
Can we check the mic? Check the mic. If I can't hear them, they definitely can't.
Hello? Hello?
Can we get someone up to have a quick look at it?
Hello?
Yep, that works. Yeah.
I can speak like this. Now you can hear me? No? I have a long neck, that's fine. So you can hear me now?
Yes.
That's good. So
Fabulous.
I'm
Sorry,
gonna
Stephane.
reintroduce myself.
Yes.
So my name is Stephane Coruble. I'm CEO of AdConnect, the international advertising sales house of RTL Group. So global role, representing all RTL Group companies from TV, radio, and online video across Europe in 12 markets, but also in the US now, representing also Fremantle assets. So I wanted to go back to your introduction and what does TV mean today? And for us at RTL Group, it has been since 2 years ago already, we redefined the acronym TV that does not mean television anymore, but means total video. Because at the end of the day, it's about content. It's about touch points with your customers, or with our consumers, and whatever the means, whatever the device, whatever the form, it could be linear or non-linear, it's about consuming content, okay? So basically, we think at RTL, we are in the audience business. We're in the audience business. It could be a high-reach audience. It could be a hyper-targeted audience thanks to data, thanks to online video, thanks to programmatic, whatever. But we are in the audience business. And the idea is to facilitate to our customers, the agencies, the clients, the advertisers, the access to this inventory. And I can tell you, it's difficult. It's difficult. In Europe, if I compare that to the US, we were a few days ago with the EGTA in the US, and we had the opportunity to speak to all the big players in the US. Europe is not the US. It's a completely different market, very scattered market, with each and every one of the countries have their own TAM measurement or census data. Everyone is doing a little bit some different things. And I don't want to be the party pooper here, but definitely I don't see that being solved within the next few months, as a global measurement system over Europe. But what I think is I do believe that in each and every country, we can come to a consensus very, very soon. And I can tell you, each and every one of the researcher internally at RTL, but also with the other colleagues from the competitors, are working in that direction, that's for sure.
All right, we're going to come back to that pan-European point because it's a really interesting issue. Right, let's just start with the buyers. And rather than go to Simon first, I thought we might start with the sales houses. So, Jamie, you're obviously working for one of Europe's most interesting data-driven sales houses. Are advertisers and agencies asking for something different from you now in relation to data? Have things changed? What do they now want from you in relation to measurement, data, and metrics?
So the answer is yes in every instance of that question. The expectation has changed. and that's more because capabilities have changed. And I think that there's a sort of topic of conversation that we saw in the AA piece, the presentation earlier, which talked about the different roles or different campaign types. And I think the measurement requirement is different depending on the campaign type. So if it's a broad brand building campaign, you might need a different type of measurement to if you are an addressable or lower funnel campaign.
And part of TV's future has to be addressing those different needs.
Yeah. To coin the phrase that Bennett and Field talked about, it's playing at the long term and the short term, the long and the short of it, and getting that mix right. Again, the AA talked about the mix, and it's 60-40 is the proposed right blend. I guess it depends on each campaign. But I think what we're seeing is there are a number of brands and broadcasters and platforms that are building out their data capabilities, and a number of agencies that are working in between that, either to build out their own capabilities or to facilitate that, which means that we as broadcasters and agencies and brands are having to evolve our language, our process, our teams, and our infrastructure. And that is, again, it's either half full, that cup, or it's empty. Or, as you know, it's half full. And that's an opportunity. We just need to get this commonality of standard, to Stephane's point. Whether it be across Europe or globally, or just understand what is a view, what is engagement, and try and ensure that you're talking about the same level of reach. Facebook quite often claim to reach more 1634s that actually exist in the world. I think that's probably slightly wrong. But actually, if you had actual engagement metrics that were standardized that you could hold people to account, whether it be TV platforms or any other platform, then I think you're starting to get along the right sort of
And you think it's standardization between TV and digital, or just in the TV industry? Or but
all I can influence really is the TV industry, but I think if we have metrics that remain and continue to be gold standard, then you have something to hold other industries to account to, and that's kind of something that I feel really passionately about. It also negates the negative sentiment that is propagated either by the ill-educated or by the partisan about whether it be about TV dying and digital not, or whether it be about, but it negates that argument and stops it in its shoes, and that is going to be brilliant for brands, brilliant for agencies, and more importantly, brilliant for TV companies.
So Stephane, just want to turn to you on the same question.
Yeah.
You're obviously dealing with agencies and advertisers across many European markets.
Yeah.
Are you seeing a significant change in what they're asking for in different European territories?
Well, I think they're all wanting to have more insights and more info on cross-measurement. That's for sure, on all screens. As I said, we are working on it, but of course the main idea would be to be able to really measure the incremental reach that you get, when combining traditional television and online video. We're not there yet. There has been, though, a few initiatives. I remember in 2017 in Holland, RTL Netherlands has done its own research, combining the TV audience measurement plus an online panel. And we've been working only on our ecosystem because it was, referring to some remarks, very costly in order to deliver that, but very interesting metrics. We've been able to bring to the market and to demonstrate that we could have indeed incremental reach between TV and online video in our own ecosystem again, between 6% and 13%, depending on the target groups, etc.
Stephane, sorry, can I just check? Can everyone hear Stephane still? It's all right, fine.
Yeah?
Good.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
I can shout.
No, it's just my wobbly ears.
No. But so yeah, many things are happening on the market. When again, we are not there yet, but you can see that different initiatives are proving that there is definitely incremental reach. Then we need to figure out, okay, how do we bring this to the market? And the market is always two-sided. You have the one who is producing the research, and you also have the agencies who need to buy into this new piece of research. And I can tell you, sometimes also it's a little bit difficult.
And the challenge in a sense is that you have lots of initiatives, they're just not very joined up, there's people doing their own things. Katty, just briefly, you've obviously just done a big exercise when you've been out and spoken to a lot of agencies, I think. what are they looking for that the TV industry needs to deliver?
I don't know about agencies, and I certainly don't want to speak in front of Simon and start
course you can.
volunteering ideas.
We're going to come to
we
Simon
spoke
next,
both
don't
to
worry.
agencies and to advertisers. And when you ask them for what they want, before they tell you that they want better measurement and that they want to go and seek for the additional audiences or even to have the incremental reach, they first talk to you about they want TV to be easier to buy. Yeah. They want to have comparable metrics. They want to be able to compare whatever they're getting. I think a lot of the advertisers that you all dealing with and that we all dealing with are truly international. If they start getting something, if they can buy in the US and make a unified buy for their online and their on-air inventory and start getting used to do that, it's only a matter of time before they start demanding the same thing over here. Of course, the markets are very different, but at least in the approach, in what we adopt as targets for the next steps, I think we have to, taking into consideration our own realities and the specificities of our markets, I think we need to do everything we can to make TV easier to buy. I think that's the demand, that's what they want, and it's...
That's simplicity. All right, Simon, you've heard a range of views. Do you want to just give us the GroupM perspective quickly? How much change do you see in what your clients are asking for when you're planning and buying a TV campaign on their behalf?
I think the important thing to remember is there's no easy answer. Every single client is different. We have 5 agencies. We have Xaxis as a digital agency and programmatic agency. All of them have a diversity of clients. To Katty's point, yes, there are some major international clients who demand a solution that is totally consistent globally. In many cases, that means we have to take the spot schedules from television, which have, of course, been optimized incredibly well, with channel day part optimization that's been going on. I've been doing it for 25 years. You know, there's nothing new in that. We've just got a far more fragmented marketplace. And we have, and this is my first plea, is unfortunately, we've got too many spots that are 0 ratings because they are across a fragmented audience. And this is not a criticism of Barb, Médiamétrie, MMS, AGF or anyone. It's basically saying that we've got to do something and we should have done it years ago. So I'm a great supporter of the hybrid model. Absolutely crucial.
Which we're going to come on and talk about in a moment.
So that's number one. Number 2 is, and I go back to it again, is it's the trading currency. And every country, as has been said a number of times already today, you know, the US and UK are very different. Well, the UK is different from the rest of Europe. Germany is different. Germany have their own upfront version, and so on and so forth.
And can I be very specific about this? So, some agencies will say very explicitly that one of the reasons why Facebook and Google have grown fast is that they're easy to transact with, and they offer, leaving aside the wobbles that Jamie mentioned with some of the data, they do offer a consistent platform across many European markets. Is that your view? Is that one of the reasons why they're growing very fast from an ad spend point of view?
I would turn it round the other way. I would say to you, what is the client's campaign objective? And I'm not going to go into a 101 on Binnett and Field or Karen Nelson Field or Wrightson or whoever, but all of that is so important, and we got a little bit of taste of that on the AA case study. It is absolutely crucial to deal through the funnel. I mean, one of my soapboxes is the lack of brand equity investment and brand building, and I think there's some major advertisers that are going to have some problems in a few years' time because they've gone too performance-based. However, there are some clients with their brands or their entire business model that is predicated on pure, what we used to call direct response. So instead of having coupons with a code in a newspaper, it's an online environment, and which you can track the clicks all the way through. So that's fantastic. Do remember an awful lot of the revenue that's gone into Google, Facebook, and other social media has come from print. It's not necessarily come from TV.
Is TV losing money because it's inconsistent and hard to transact with at a pan-European level?
We don't. Television is not a pan-European medium. They're all individual countries.
Would there be more money and more budget?
There would be some incremental budget available.
At least at national level.
Yeah.
They should be.
Yeah.
Mikael, let's jump on to our next question then. You mentioned earlier that obviously in Sweden you've had a significant upgrade to the TAM solution and it's delivered much better visibility of a lot of what's happening. How has it changed the TV market? What's it done to the market? You mentioned share in your opening remarks. Can you just give us some...
We had 1,350 TAM setup measurements, and we upgraded that to 3,000 just because we acknowledged that we need to reduce the zero rating that we produced. In some channels, maybe 80% of all spots that went out were zero ratings. So we identified that this is an issue that we need to address. So we more than doubled the TAM panel. And we're a small country, so 3,000 measure over a population of 10 million is quite huge. In the UK, I believe it's 5,000 something, and you're 80 million. So it's quite different. So what actually happened that we significantly reduced zero ratings across all our audiences. So now the level across all audiences might maybe 5–10%, which is a huge difference. And that increased the quality of data towards the agencies and advertisers as well. And we've invested in that as a broadcaster. I mean, we've increased maybe the budget for our joint jig in Sweden by 30% across 2 or 3 years. And we will continue next year to increase the investments in our combined measurement by a further 20%. So we're investing in a joint industry measurement, which is, I think, crucial for our joint business model.
So in other words, it's been a significant enhancement. It's helped the market in exciting ways.
Yeah.
Were there any, just briefly, were there any unintended consequences? Things that people were not expecting, but actually...
I mean, one of the theories moving into this was that our smaller channels would grow and our larger channels would reduce. And it actually happened the other way around. So our smaller channels became smaller and our bigger channels became bigger. Which was not what we planned for, but it was good development, actually.
Okay. Stephane, so we've got upgrades across most of Europe. If you had to boil it down, what else does the TV industry in Europe need to do? What's the case for doing other stuff? Are there any common themes that you think, as a pan-European broadcaster, the industry needs to address from a data and measurement point of view?
Well, we're here to talk about measurement. So, of course, the global aim, the objective, the ultimate objective is to measure all types of video, whatever the platform and whatever the form. So here, of course, we're measuring at the moment TV, we're measuring catch-up TV, we're measuring online video, but of course we're going to need to measure as well OTT services in whatever form. It could be AVOD, it could be also SVOD. We heard this morning the first keynote that some things are going on at ITV, things are going on also at RTL Group level from an SVOD perspective. So we will need to measure this also in the future. And about the platforms, we are in some kind of a paradox sometimes. We are all competing against the FANGs or the FANGAs or the GAFAs, but we are also partnering with them. And RTL Group is partnering with them as well because we are using their phenomenal distribution platform to distribute our content. I'll give you an example. I had this tremendous opportunity of working in this industry to go and see the live final of X Factor this weekend at Wembley. It was a fantastic TV show, the great TV show that you expect. Fantastic ratings as well, great. But over the weekend, where do you think these shows continue its life? Of course, on catch-up TV, but also on social media. And I was sharing with my friends on Facebook Watch, the little clips of the winner, Dalton, very good singer, by the way. And you need to measure that in the future because we will be able in the future to monetize that also from a broadcaster's perspective.
So your big answer is we just need to measure all the TV that is being consumed on every platform and device, plus all the other stuff.
Yes.
Jamie, what's your view? What else do we need to do as an industry on top of the planned TAM upgrades? Are there other initiatives that the industry should be pursuing?
Well, I think actually when you look across all the countries, and your chart I think described it really well, most countries are making good progress. I think we'd all like it to be quicker, but that's just a fact of life. We're all going to work at slightly different paces. I think the one thing I would like to see is that across all the different markets, we have a common protocol, methodology or definition of all the different types of content and viewing and commercial viewing as well. If we can all agree that, sort of independently of commercial sort of input, purist for a measurement context, then the advertisers and the agencies will know what they're getting, and each country will either catch up or meet those requirements in time, and we all know what we're dealing with. So for me, it's more about the collaboration and agreement than it is about telling any one particular country's TAM that they have to go faster, because there are commercial pressures, there may be technical pressures. But if we can agree that, that's a major, major step forward.
Simon, you've heard some perspectives.
Yeah.
So obviously...
Let me deal with a few of them. First of all, most European countries, not true.
Right.
It is, Spain, the Kantar Comscore development of cross-screen measurement hasn't happened.
Well, they're either in progress or planned, though.
Well, it's planned and nothing's happened. 2, Mediometry, fantastic work, really good work, but they've invented a completely new GRP that's different to everybody else's. Simple things like Spain, equivalences on 20 seconds, not 30 seconds. And to Jamie's point, absolutely right, I've been asking for this for years. I was involved with Jeff Eales when we did this in the UK to get a standard taxonomy.
So the issue you're pointing in a sense is that...
To do that in Europe, Nielsen, Kantar, GfK, Adinfo in Spain, all different companies, all different taxonomies. We even have this with clients. Believe me, getting Procter & Gamble and Unilever's competitive analysis together takes teams of dozens of people. It shouldn't do. It does. And I can see exactly the same happening. And it costs us. And Jamie will understand this because of their activity in Germany and Italy.
So and the issue you point to, just to be clear to everybody, is that although these TAM upgrades are in place, there is one huge difficulty, which is that the solutions are diverging. They're becoming more distinctive and different. They're not converging, per se.
Some are converging, right. Others are not.
Right.
They're doing it in different ways. There are very few single source panels. Most of them are fusion-based or multi-based.
Are they all fusing in the same way?
No. The Swedish one in particular, it's
a hybrid.
Very, very clever hybrid.
Yeah.
It's totally different to what they've done in the Netherlands with SKO's lead. Yeah. Totally different, and very different to what we're doing in this country. And we must remember, it's television, time-shifted, catch-up, and broadcast of VOD. It's not SVOD, it's not AVOD, and it certainly isn't the walled gardens. Now, from my clients and from our point of view, whether it be planning or trading, we are looking in the totality. It's 15 years since the WFA published their holistic approach to campaign management. That's the people who spend the money, and we have not delivered.
So I think you're agreeing wholeheartedly with Jamie then?
Absolutely. I said that we normally do, don't we?
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to say I've done a lot of panels with Jamie and Simon. That's close to a first.
That's GroupM and Sky for you.
That's GroupM and Sky. Katty, you wanted to come in.
No, I was just going to say, ultimately, is the methodology, and it is the fact that people reach an answer using different methods that relevant. What we need to do is answer advertisers' questions. They have KPIs. They want to know how their brand is doing. They want to know how much they're selling. They want brand building KPIs. They want performance KPIs. If SKO has a different methodology to MMS, does it really matter ultimately? And isn't it a matter of just going to the questions? So anything that goes into, and somebody said in one of the interviews we did, even if you could come up with a smaller number of solutions, not all go for your own proprietary solutions and start developing your own thing, but if you could agree, even per groups, and provide advertisers and agencies with at least answers that make sense for a collective group of broadcasters, that would already be a big step. So maybe let's not just wait before we do something that we find a way of harmonizing MMS, SKO, BARB, and that doesn't make sense.
Okay, let's jump on, as we're running, as ever, short of time. I think we should jump to this one. No, let's jump to this one. Here we go. Sorry about that, we've jumped a long way. So, there are obviously lots of collaborations and joint initiatives underway in Europe and in the US at the moment, and I think it's very much flavour of the month. I think for those who haven't seen it, Ekelof have just published a really interesting roundup of some of the most interesting collaborations. What are we learning about from those collaborations, about the scope of collaboration? Can it really deliver change and alignment and some of the changes that Damien and Simon have just been talking about? Stephane, I don't know if you want to start. You're involved in the RTL Login Alliance. Do you want to tell everyone what it is and what you're trying to achieve?
So, by the way, we changed name. It's not the Login Alliance now. It's called the Net ID. So it's a little bit different.
You heard it here.
But it's more sexy. It's more marketing. Well, you know, if you go back to the roots and to my own company, RTL AdConnect, we are an alliance somehow of course, the RTL group companies working together. We're very different. M6 is different from RTL in the Netherlands or RTL in Germany, but we are collaborating through RTL AdConnect. We expanded the alliance to external non-RTL companies like ITV in this very country, RAI in Italy, and we are already combining stuff because we need to work together in order to, as we said, facilitate, simplify the access to our consumers. That's one. And the second thing is about scale. You know, when we are competing against, you know, the big duopoly, of course, those guys, they have a great product. It's very simple to use, and they have global reach and global scale. So we need to combine our assets together in order to be stronger together. Now, going back to Germany, Net ID, what is it? It's not a sales product, it's not a commercial product. It's more aimed at the customers to make it simpler for the customer to log in onto RTL, but also to the competitor of RTL, to ProSieben, but also to the telco, one of the biggest telco operator in Germany, and combining it with a single sign-on. So it's very easy to connect to the different kinds of platform using, as a matter of fact, my own and single user ID. So again, it's going towards simplicity. There is maybe another alliance that I should mention today, which is happening in France, that will happen beginning of next year in France, also very peculiar in the way we want to simplify the access to programmatic buying using first-party data. And it was a really, really complex idea, but we are combining, again, RTL Group, TF1, who is our direct competitor, on the podcasters, France Télévisions, and we're combining a kind of a marketplace to buy programmatically using the first-party data of the publisher and combining the first-party data of our clients within, you know, some kind of a database that will use or I would say work on the segments.
You're pushing lots of these collaborative initiatives. You're presumably therefore optimistic about what they can achieve.
We are very optimistic about the future.
Katty, you've just done a study looking at some of them, written a really interesting paper. What was your takeaway? Do you think there's much scope for these sorts of initiatives to really help the industry move forwards?
I think there should be. I think I've made that point very clear. But to me, the one thing that's always astonishing, and you're talking about OpenAP, somebody mentioned a trip to New York. We actually had a chance to meet with the OpenAP guys and to see OpenAP live and see what it is. And it is just so simple. And it's so much less than what you would think it is. But because it is simple, because it is everybody's involved, not at NBC Universal, it's not yet everybody, but a big chunk of the market. And it just, again, ticks KPIs and it ticks satisfaction boxes because the advertisers for the first time have the impression that they can go to a platform, look up inventory with similar attributes, similar segments, and that's all they're asking for. All the negotiation and all the business deals are done separately. You just, you know, put an order, make a segment, and then you negotiate with the people. Somebody said earlier that cooperation is difficult when money needs to change hands, and maybe the thing is to invest in a platform where everybody contributes, but you're not making one of the partners richer by investing or something, and then it becomes easy. But advertisers are not demanding much. They just ease, transparency, and accessibility.
Jamie, Sky, as we heard from your CEO earlier today, is obviously having lots of collaboration discussions. And I guess one takeaway from some of those UK discussions is that they're quite hard and take quite a lot of time in many cases. Do you see some big barriers limiting the scope of collaboration?
So I think you need to start wide,
right,
and then narrow down. And for me, collaboration can start at principles. If you agree the right principles, and that could be something as simple as OpenAP and you know, and agreeing sort of targeting metrics or language, protocols, anything, that's a major step forward. you're right, when you get down to the detail of integrations, data flows, commercials, getting a return on ad tech, all of that sort of stuff, that's really complicated. I think we should probably, start that after we've agreed a collective ambition, some principles and protocols, and then move on from there. But, at Sky across UK, Italy, Germany, and Ireland, we are open to collaborating to agreed upon transparent protocols, and we'll change our process across all those territories.
All right. Jumping on, Simon, you've been involved in European audience measurement for longer than lots of people in this room who've been alive. Do you...
Thank you, John.
No, which I meant to mean it confers a certain amount of wisdom to you. Wisdom and knowledge. Thank you. So you're quite, you've got your sleeves rolled up and you've got your hands nitty-gritty into these solutions. Do you think working towards a more consistent pan-European approach to measurement is a practical objective over the next decade?
Short answer, yes.
Right.
And people are doing it.
Okay.
There are what used to be called the pan-Euro TV companies, so Eurosport, Discovery, CNN, etc. They are taking data from individual markets and combining them into single analytics applications that exist and third party on the open market.
So it's a fusion of data from different countries.
It's not a fusion. It's the panel from each country.
Got you.
But there are ways of giving a total figure, which they have. The one I particularly know very well is the Eurosport one,
right.
Which was the first one. They've been done very well. That same capability is not available to agencies. So we would, and having had conversations, I think as Barry Couples said yesterday, with the EACA, we do talk to each other in agencies in the same way that you saw 3 CEOs from television companies. I know our CEO and those from Publicis and OMD have been on the same stage, and we do talk to each other, and we want the same things, and we do the same things. So in terms of this, absolutely, but I'm afraid you're going to hit regulation. You're going to hit GICS, and there are certain countries where data must be processed and used, and to quote the contract, within the country of origin. We can't move it. We can't take a spot list out.
So we
can only do a summary report.
We have this red thing flashing
I can
here.
see, yeah.
I want to very quickly just ask Stephane the same question, because obviously RTL plays in lots of different European markets. Is it a practical goal to work towards? Do you think it's actually, as Simon suggests, achievable?
Well, as I said in the intro, I do believe that we will have to step several steps, maybe to reach the ultimate goal to have one big, pan-European database. If I go directly to the point, I think this will not happen within overnight. It will need to be first discussed at local, so it will be some kind of a multi-country type of agreement, because of course you have GDPR, you have the local legislations, etc. And I can tell you this is a little bit of a nightmare for Europe. What I can tell you is RTL Group, and not even RTL Group, Bertelsmann, our mothership company, is really taking this seriously. We have a data expert group which is working at the moment at Bertelsmann level, 200 scientists working together. We're going to do a data summit in Berlin next January about how do we combine data across the different assets that we own and the different countries. And
Stephane,
this is the objective.
We are timed out. Can we get
John, two very important clarifications.
Simon, just one
please.
second. Can we get one sentence from each panelist and your clarification?
Okay, thank you.
So the one practical thing I'm guessing you think the European TV industry should do next is the data summit. Anything else?
Sure.
Okay. Michael, the one practical step if the industry does next is?
Collaborate more, talk to each other.
Katty?
An invitation. I mean, we are a platform connected to so many broadcasters across so many markets. If you think there's anything that we can make happen and contribute, talk to us. We're happy in collaboration with others to make things happen. So,
Simon, 2 clarifications.
Thank you. I was talking about TAM panels and hybrids.
Right.
That's where I think the easy win is, if we can get over the regulation. The second area is in the advanced targeting. Open is brilliant. I think we should do more of it, but we as agencies are already doing it. It's the key to get incremental revenue. And that's the reason that these guys are doing it, because that's where they're going to get the incremental revenue from, not necessarily from TV itself.
Jamie, perhaps the next step?
Set aside commercial ambitions and collaborate beyond Europe into a global vision of what TV advertising measurement protocols look like.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. I hope we've fought big. We will tweet. There is an address that you can get the sort of summary report, and the full report will follow in January for everybody. But I'll tweet that out, as I don't think we have time to move to that page. So I'm just afraid going to say, oh, there you go, there's an email address. I'll tweet that out later. So a massive thank you to our panel.
Can I just add that in cooperation with MTM, we'll be doing a session on this very same topic in Budapest on the 30th of January, which will be a call to broadcasters. So if you are a broadcaster or a sales house and want to kind of agree on a line of action where we bring more sense still into this debate, we're happy to run this joint initiative in Budapest 30th of January.
There'll be more publicity about that to follow. Thank you to our panel.